Don't you think the next scenario will still be tough? Han Soo-young asked me. The 73rd Demon King was strong, but there would be no problems if we were thoroughly prepared. Maybe this was the easiest of all the scenarios I had done so far. Shortly afterwards, the people training gathered near me. Have you finished raising your rankings? It was Jung Hee-won who answered my question. We're all in the top 10. In fact, Ji-hee and Pildushi were close, but they automatically upgraded this morning. Automatically? There was only one reason for such an upgrade. It was when a top ranker was killed. Han Soo-young already had an ominous expression. A top 10 ranker suddenly died? Something strange. Hey, I'm really not going. You came, Kim Dokja. Are you also going to take that woman? Han Soo-young hid behind me at Yoo Joonghyuk's sudden appearance. She was still scared of Yoo Joonghyuk. I nodded as Yoo Joonghyuk stared at Han Soo-young and pulled out the 6-man card. The incarnation Yoo Joonghyuk has used 6-man card. The incarnation Han Soo-young has become a special participant of the scenario. The incarnation Han Soo-young has joined incarnation Yoo Joonghyuk's team. Han Soo-young was astonished by the rising messages. What is this? Hey, why am I on his team? Now, let's get ready to leave. At his words, the party members moved into their teams. The first to gather was Yoo Joonghyuk's team. They were Lee Hyung-sung, Lee So-hwa, Lee Ji-hee, and Lee Gil-young. In addition, there was the complaining Han Soo-young. The unusual mixture of old characters from the novel and the new characters gave me a wonderful feeling. It was a luxury that only a reader of Ways of Survival could enjoy. My team followed suit. Jung Hee-won, Yoo Sung-ah, Shin Yoo-sung, and Lee Gil-young. There was a free atmosphere compared to the military discipline of Yoo Joonghyuk's team. I looked at the members one by one. Why are you looking at us like that? It's a new feeling. I smiled at Jung Hee-won's scolding. I felt pained and sad at the people who followed me well all the way here. I felt like my heart had grown since I talked with the fourth wall. It might be because I was more prepared for this scenario. I was now afraid to lose them. Oh, shouldn't we be a group of 6 as well? The team members followed my gaze. There was a line of dolls a few steps away. Don't stay over there and come here. We had obtained 2 6-man cards. Han Soo-young went to Yoo Joonghyuk's team, and my team also needed a 6th person. To be exact, it was a 6th woman. Soo-kyung, she also wanted to go with you. It's more helpful for you to go with me. Jeon Woo-chi's incarnation, Cho Young-gran, looked at me with complicated eyes. I asked my mother to include her as a member of the team. Jeon Woo-chi's stigma was quite useful for emergency situations. Did you talk to Soo-kyung-chi? I replied, a little bit. Due to the after effects of escaping from the fourth wall, my mother wasn't in a position to participate in the next scenario. Thanks to the fourth wall, I discovered different things about my mother. It wasn't just about the past she was hiding, it was also what she experienced after participating in the scenario. Unlike me, who knew the whole story, my mother had a desperate struggle. She paid an unreasonable price to the constellations many times, was captured on purpose to steal the memories of the reincarnated Nirvana, and even contracted with the nebula to keep me safe. Despite knowing all this, I couldn't find anything to say to my mother. Perhaps because it wasn't yet time. Once the scenarios were finished safely, perhaps then we could share the real story. My mother probably knew it as well because she didn't say much this time. She just stared at me for a long time before saying, I believe in your choice. I didn't know why, but I felt strange when I heard this. Perhaps my mother read something from me, just like I had read her through the fourth wall. Depart. We started to move. The target was the altar located in the center of the Abyss Plains. Just like the first floor of the Dark Castle, we could move to the next floor using the altar. We started the boring walk, and Jung Hee-won opened her mouth. It bothers me that the nebula are so quiet. In fact, I hadn't heard the nebula's messages since 2 days ago. I didn't know if they were hiding something, or perhaps they'd consumed too much probability. I glanced at Yoo Sung-ah and asked, Have you been in contact with Olympus? Not since 3 days ago. As I heard last time, the constellations of Olympus were currently split. The outsiders of Olympus, like Dionysus and Persephone, were the ones who approached Yoo Sang-ah. Perhaps 3 days ago there was a struggle inside Olympus. My expression was uneasy, and Yoo Sang-ah spoke in a concerned voice. Dokshashi, are you okay? I'm fine. What about Yoo Sang-ah? I am trying to be okay. I glanced at Yoo Sang-ah. She was such a good person that I would feel sorry if I kept watching her. She learned about my fate first, and I heard that she ran around in order to save me. It wasn't strange for Yoo Sang-ah. She was the first person to come forward if something was wrong. In the first scenario, she stood up first to save the grandmother. Yoo Sang-ah would act exactly the same if someone else was in my position. Can we win? We've managed so far, but this time... Don't worry, I tried to assure Yoo Sang-ah. I won't die, you know? Yoo Sang-ah was the first to see my fate, and she must know that it hadn't disappeared. I was wondering what else I could say to reassure her when I heard Yoo Joonghyuk's voice. We're here. There was a gigantic building reminiscent of the ancient Parthenon. The party members noticeably stiffened, and I called people one by one. Gil-young, Yoo-sung. Do it as we practiced earlier. Don't call the Chimera Dragon until I've given the signal. Do you understand? The role of these children was the most important thing before the attack on the Demon King. The Chimera Dragon tamed by the children would play a key role in this attack. Yoo Sang-ah, please protect Jung Hee-won from being hurt. This time, the main damage dealer will be Jung Hee-won. Are you familiar with how to fight? I remember. Yoo Joonghyuk looked this way when he finished preparing as I pulled the team members over to him. A waist-height altar soon appeared. Yoo Joonghyuk and I placed our hands on the palm marks on the altar at the same time. The scenario challengers have been confirmed. Scenario challenger, first in the Dark Castle, Yoo Joonghyuk. Scenario challenger, second in the Dark Castle, Kim Dokja. Total number of people omitted, 12 people. Are you sure you want to enter the scenario? We all nodded at the same time. There were dazzling rays of light, and our bodies transferred to the next floor. The place we were transferred to was a cramped passage. You have now entered the new main scenario area. Main scenario number 10, 73rd Demon King, has started. As expected, it was the same development as the original novel. Once we followed this passage, we would reach the hall where the 73rd Demon King was waiting. Prepare the formations. We moved carefully along the passage. The difficulty depended on how much damage was inflicted with the first surprise attack. If we could get as close as possible and deal a large amount of damage, we might be able to finish it without using all the formations we practiced. However, as I moved along the passage, a worrisome feeling filled my mind. Why was it so quiet? Shouldn't I feel the Demon King's aura at this point? Then a system message emerged. An error has occurred in the scenario. Hyung, this is... The surprised Lee Gil-young reflexively opened his mouth, and I placed my finger against his lips. The party members lowered their voices. Dokshashi, this is different from the story. There are dead people here. The one who spoke was Lee Hyung-sung, who had been searching in the front. We moved as stealthily as possible and gathered near Lee Hyung-sung. Surprisingly, there were bodies that looked like they just died. Yoo Joonghyuk touched them, and powerful sparks popped out. It's evidence of a probability storm. I didn't know what they had done, but if the sparks were still here after their deaths, their sponsors must have done something huge. The incarnations had used a lot of force, and the sponsors behind them must have suffered a huge blow. Who the hell had done this? Then Yoo Joonghyuk opened his mouth. The incarnations of Vetus and Papyrus. What? I've met them wandering around the Dark Castle. They were in contact with me. How did those guys come here? A terminal of the nebula would have been sufficient rankings, but they wouldn't have the right to participate in the scenario. It looks like there was another 6-man card. One question was resolved. The sudden rise in Lee Ji-hee and Gong Pildu's ranking was because of the rankers killed here. I had an ominous hunch. Were the nebula quiet because they used up all their probability here? It meant... We reflexively looked at each other, and Yoo Joonghyuk started running towards the hall, forgetting the formation. If I was right, now wasn't the time to worry about formations. The moment we arrived in the hall, we witnessed a shocking sight. Constellations! What the hell are you doing? Dozens of dokubis floated in the air in the center of the hall. It's difficult if you do such arbitrary things. Aren't you looking down on the Starstream? Using Deus Ex Machina in this place? The words weren't directed towards us, but we were obviously meant to be here. Bi-hyung looked awkward as he met my gaze. This jerk, what the hell? I know you aren't worried about the incarnations, but the scenario won't be over just because you interfere. Some of you have received a blow that nearly destroyed you. Why the hell did you do this? Just look at the probability. All the lower constellations have collapsed. There was a strange smile on the face of the representative Dokkaebi. He smiled like he knew this would happen from the beginning. Wait a minute. What did this bastard just say? Kim Dokja. I looked in the direction that Yoo Joonghyuk was pointing, the center of the hall. There was a broken throne that should have originally contained the 73rd Demon King. In addition, the fearsome Demon King that we should have met. The 73rd Demon King is dead. He was lying dead on the ground, his chest torn apart. What's this? He's dead? After Han Soo-young's words, the other members belatedly opened their mouths. The Demon King's already dead? Then what will happen to the scenario? Maybe it's already ended. My head was too complicated that I couldn't hear the voices of the people. The unqualified incarnations challenged the scenario, received the probability storm, and killed the Dokkaebi King, the Demon King, with the support of the Nebula. At first, the scenario seemed to be resolved. However, the main scenarios of the Starstream weren't so simple. The Starstream has corrected the balance of this scenario. The scenarios where transcendent existences excessively intervened were forcibly corrected by the Starstream. There was a strong sense of déjà vu in my head. It wasn't the 73rd Demon King scenario, but a similar thing happened in Ways of Survival. The scenario was ruined by the writing of constellations, and the Starstream restored the main scenario. Then what would happen? The Starstream has corrected the broken probability. I looked at the dead Demon King. The Starstream liked the natural flow of stories, and it couldn't revive dead existences. A time reversal or resurrection would undermine the probability of the scenario even more. The main scenario contents have been updated. The 73rd Demon King was dead. However, a 73rd Demon King was still needed. It was because we had to hunt him in order to proceed with the scenario. The Starstream was originally set to fix these contradictions. There was a shining, precious jade in the spot where the Demon King had died. I reflexively muttered, "Hey, this..." By the way, I couldn't feel any signs around me. There was an eerie feeling creeping down my spine. Time seemed to flow very slowly. I looked around and Yoo Joonghyuk wasn't there. By the time I moved, Yoo Joonghyuk had already reached the jade. His expression as he looked at me was something I had never seen before. Yoo Joonghyuk was looking at me with eyes that had never been present in Ways of Survival. Kim Dokja, be sure to keep your promise. Then the system messages rose. The candidate for 73rd Demon King has been found. The new 73rd Demon King is elected.